Take a breath with me. So this morning we wrap up our monthly theme of One Journey, Many Paths in the context of our annual global theme, Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And the principle, the timeless wisdom principle that we're working with this month is from our statement of what we believe. We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel its indwelling presence. This is a universe of wholeness, allness, oneness. Spirit is a transcendent, perfect wholeness that, in its infinite inclusivity, harmoniously embraces all seeming opposites. And the evolutionary vision principle that we're working with is from our global vision. We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. We see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with their highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with one another. A world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of awareness, of consciousness, and action. And so this morning, our talk title is Journey to Freedom. And I think it's worth noting that it is a journey and that the only place we're going is to an experience. We're not going to a place. We're not going to a position. We're literally going to an experience of unrestriction. Freedom, by definition, is the lack of restriction. And so what our journey is taking us to is an elimination of restriction, resulting in an experience of freedom. And I would invite you to consider that one of the requisite components of this is that we release any part of our experience as being caused by someone else. Now, I just heard the universal gasp of, what about fill in the blank? Well, what about that? What about those people in this human realm who have hurt us, either emotionally, mentally, verbally, physically, sexually? Isn't it their fault? Didn't they cause my pain? Perhaps in the physical realm, we can say yes. But isn't living in an experience only of the physical realm one of our greatest limitations? See, I think we go back to that first thing that I read. This is a universe of wholeness, allness, oneness. Spirit is a transcendent, perfect wholeness that, listen very carefully, in its infinite inclusivity, harmoniously embraces all seeming opposites. It doesn't say that it's a selective inclusivity that rationalizes excluding some while we include others. Doesn't say that. It doesn't say that it's a chaotic surrender of embrace of all seeming opposites. It says it is a harmonious embrace. And it specifies seeming opposites, which would lead us to at least consider that perhaps this idea of opposites is thought produced. That our experience of opposites is the necessary and predictable experience of our belief in opposites. Well, that's great, Rev. That all sounds really good. And when will you join us here on planet Earth? I hear you. Because I have the same conversation with my humanness every day. Every day. And I think that is probably the greatest seeming opposite that we have to embrace harmoniously. Is that my ego is not in opposition to my spiritual truth. That in the truth of creation, my ego is a divine idea in the mind of God. Because if it were supposed to be some other way, wouldn't it be? Or is the God of our understanding so limited that it was confused when it created humanity? Really? I don't think so. And so perhaps this harmonious embrace of all seeming opposites begins with our individualized journey to freedom. That first we must emancipate ourselves from the idea that our ego somehow separates us from our divinity. That perhaps they truly are simply different sides of the same coin. That they are different expressions of the same physical manifestation that we call me. That you call me, that I call me. Perhaps. I was having a conversation earlier this week with one of our members, and we were talking about the analogy of the ego and the spiritual being dance partners. And that life is literally just this glorious dance, if you will. where we sometimes lose our rhythm. Where sometimes we are so in sync with ourselves, our egoic self, with our spiritual self, that the embrace is so perfect and the hearing of the music is so perfect that there's just this ease and flow, and the dance is poetic and brilliant and moving, and then we lose our rhythm. And we're awkward. And we feel disconnected. And we feel the struggle and the rub. Who's leading? Who's following? And I invite you to hold the image that you're still in that embrace. That the frame, the dance frame, is still perfect. That it is framed by divinity itself, by the idea of creation that is our ego. And that perhaps you simply lean into the awkwardness, lean into the chaos, and whisper in your ego's ear, I'm leading now. Come with me. And allow yourself to surrender into that divine embrace. And watch how effortlessly you lose track. When the spiritual self is leading, there is no resistance. When we embrace, it is when we try to pull away that we feel disconnected. Lean in. Lean in through the disconnection, through the idea of limitation. Lean into the wholeness that you are. And watch how effortlessly you begin to move through life. That's your journey of freedom. That is your arrival into journeying as freedom. But first we have to let go of everything that restricts us. Let go of your opinion of other people. Let go of giving credence to other people's opinions of you. Let go of everything in this earthly realm. Yeah, I said that. Enjoy it and then release. Because if every moment is new, let every moment be new. We can't live in the now while chained to the past or begging for the future. Be here. Be now. Doesn't mean we deny our human experience. It means we embrace it. It means we take responsibility for creating it based on what we tell ourselves about it. Now here's the real kicker in this thing called social connection. It requires that I know the truth of me first. Because when I know the truth of me, I automatically know the truth of you. Because if there's only one of us here, what I know about me, I know about every expression of that one. And I don't mean me, the human me. I mean the self with the capital S, the soul that we share, the mind that we share, the harmonious operation of one. And I think that's what Ernest Holmes was trying to get us to see when he invited us to turn away from condition. And too many of us see it as an invitation to put on blinders. I don't think for 1 minute that's what Ernest Holmes meant. And in his writings, he actually articulates that. We do not say that everything is all right when it is not. He says that. But what we do is we recognize that we are each, here comes the R word, we are each 100% responsible for our journey. And I want you to take a moment to reframe responsible from my fault to within me is the divine wisdom and intelligence to respond to every circumstance of my life without restriction, without condemnation, without judgment, to respond in grace and love, to recognize, to think again about everything in this earthly realm, to understand that it is thought being made manifest in form. And we each get to decide how we're going to experience that. We can push back, or we can embrace that we are one with a universe of wholeness. Universe, one verse. Wholeness, allness, oneness, spirit, transcendent, perfect wholeness. That's who we are. That in its infinite inclusivity, in our infinite inclusivity of oneness, we harmoniously embrace all seeming opposites. Let's take this into prayer. And so knowing that this one is perfect love, infinite intelligence, absolute abundance, flowing freely in the harmonious operation of itself. One, no restriction. I must recognize that I am that informed, being made out of it, by it, to be it, so it can experience it. This is who and what I am. And what is true of me is true of all life. Each a divine, glorious, magnificent, exquisitely individualized expression of a desire in the heart of God itself to know itself as its individualized and never separate creation. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming that every seeming opposite that would impede or restrict our freedom is brought into our awareness, that the awareness and transformation is the journey. That the neutralization of thoughts that no longer serve, that are inaccurate, that are untruth, is the journey. And that freedom is the experience at which we arrive. Grateful. Oh, so grateful. Grateful to know that life is unfolding, that freedom is available now. And so I choose it. I say yes as I let go and let it be, I release and simply say yes. I invite you to embody, to embrace, to say with me, Amen. Amen. Shalom. Aho. Ashe. And so it is.